Chances are, if you haven't been living under a rock for the past few weeks, you've heard about NFTs. I want to talk about what NFTs mean to comic book artists. Is this a game changer or just a flash in the pan? Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where we create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. And we take those things, we convert them to NFTs, and then we're making thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars. That's how it works, right? Well, some videos out there would make you believe that that's the case, and for some people, actually, that is true. And you know, there are a lot of videos out there right now talking about NFTs, so I'm not going to go in and rehash a lot of that information. I'm not going to tell you how to create them, mint them, do all that stuff like that. If you want that, that information is definitely out there, and the internet is flooded with that stuff. I want to talk about what this emerging technology could mean for comic book creators like myself, possibly like you. If you're watching this, chances are you may be a comic book creator, aspiring comic book creator, or just somebody that wants to create artwork and in turn turn it into NFTs and profit from it. This is all fairly new stuff, so I'm just going to give my opinion on what I think is possible with this, some of the pros, some of the cons, just from my perspective. While I'm doing that, I'm going to throw up some speed art that I did, some Patreon speed art for one of my patrons. I do have a patron if you want to check that out. It's Serkworks on Patreon. But let's dive into NFTs. I'm not going to go too deep into what an NFT is. It stands for non-fungible token. You can roll that word around in your mouth. Fungible, it's kind of a fun word. But basically what it's like a digital certificate of authenticity. So sometimes if you buy original artwork, you will get that little certificate that goes along with it that says this is the original, this is one of a kind. And that's basically what this token is that you can attach to pretty much any kind of digital asset. Now, there is a lot more to it than just that, and it can get a little complicated, but like I said, there are videos out there that will explain exactly what an NFT is in detail, how it works, everything you want to know. But generally, the basic idea, what an NFT does is it creates scarcity. So if you have an item, you know, if you have an original artwork, it's pretty obvious that that's the original artwork. You can hold it up in your hand. With digital pieces, it's not quite that simple. So what it does is it attaches this token to the artwork. It says that this is the original. Even if there are other copies out there and everything, it doesn't matter because this is the original. And this is crazy to me that NFTs are actually a thing. I'm so excited about this, and I'm fascinated by it, by the potential of what this could mean for comic book artists. But it brings up this funny story. I listened to this podcast called Adventures in Design, hosted by Mark Brickey, and I remember him telling this story. He has a background in the music industry. He used to be a punk rocker and everything like that, and since then he's gone into art and everything, and now podcasting. And he does this great podcast. You should check it out, Adventures in Design. But anyway, he had this story of, he was at some shindig or something with these music executives and everything, and just to mess with them, they were asking like what he did and everything, and they could see that he was successful and all that. And what he said was, well, this is what I did. I figured out a way to sell used MP3s. And as he's telling this story, he's telling how the music executive's jaw just like dropped, like, what? No, I mean, because if you remember anything about Napster and all that stuff before, when people used to buy records, and then when MP3s came on the scene and everything, and it just took so much like market share. I mean, basically, you don't sell records anymore. It's you know. So when this music executive heard this, it's like, oh no, not this now. And the funny thing is, that's kind of what NFTs are. They're this digital asset that normally you wouldn't think there's no scarcity to that. It could be shared all over. These virtually identical copies of this could be shared all over the internet, but they found a way to make it so it's one of a kind. This poses an interesting question. If you have something, this digital asset that is shared throughout the internet virtually from one person to another, anyone can have this thing. It's out there. There are so many different copies of this. Why would somebody care about that original, that NFT? And if there are, you know, billions of these things shared, and the more something is shared, wouldn't that make that NFT less valuable? But no, that's not how it works. It works in reverse. So imagine, let's put this into terms of physical artwork. So what's the best-selling comic book in America? I think Jim Lee's X-Men #1, probably the best-selling book ever, you know, sold millions of copies, all right? So there's millions of copies out there. So those actual copies, they're not really worth anything because there's so many of them out there. Whereas the original artwork that Jim Lee did, it sells for a lot, and it's going to sell more because it was so popular, because everyone knows that, because that thing has been, you know, pretty much everyone, at least in my age group, anyone that wants a copy of that X-Men #1, there are variant covers, there's all kinds of versions of this book, and it is just, like I said, it's sold millions. So because of the popularity of that, that makes that original artwork that Jim Lee has probably already sold, I guess, it's probably in somebody's collection, it makes that worth more because more people know about it, so they want that original artwork. It's the same with NFTs. If you have something like a meme that's been shared so many times that everyone knows about it, that NFT is going to be worth more. So just know that the more something is duplicated or shared, the more it's in the public eye, the more popular it is, the likelihood that that NFT is going to be worth quite a bit more. Now you might be saying to yourself, Scott, I see what you're saying, but why would anybody want this? What's the difference? I mean, sure, there's this little token or whatever that's attached to it, but I'd be happy with just any old version on my desktop. And yeah, I would too. I'm not the market for NFT. I'm not going to go out and purchase a bunch of NFTs, but the thing is that artists tend to forget about, they think, well, this doesn't make sense to me, so that means there's no market for it. And that just isn't true. People are selling NFTs and making quite a bit of money off of it. And just because I don't care about owning an NFT or I don't see it, it doesn't mean that there's no value to people out there. I used to design, you know, video games, like Facebook type games, where we had all these in-game assets that people would pay, you know, a lot of money for, just something digital like that. And this is the same thing. And I remember talking to my dad about what I was doing and the company I was working for, which was a pretty successful company. We had some successful games and everything. He was just like, I don't understand how they make money. This doesn't make any sense to me. But it doesn't have to make sense to you. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But as long as there is a market for that out there, and you just can't think of yourself as your own target market. If you do that, you're just going to be selling to the same people exactly like you, and that's going to limit you. So know that there is a market for NFTs out there, and as long as people are buying them, that is an opportunity for you, whether you care about it, whether you understand it or not. Now, I'm not saying as comic book artists that we should all rush out and create NFTs and we're all going to be millionaires. There are only a few people that are actually doing this successfully, and this isn't going to work for everyone. It's not going to work for me, quite honest, at least not right now. So as comic book artists, I don't think this is something that we should just dive headfirst into. We need to do our research, and we need to be smart about whether NFTs are right for us personally. There are a lot of sites out there that will allow you to create NFTs, and the ones that are really like low barrier of entry, I would watch out for. The ones that you just go in, because the thing with art is sites like these, I equate it to like a Fiverr, where there are people making a lot of money on Fiverr, but it's usually not the artists. It's usually people that own the company, that run the company. Fiverr's making millions, and then the artists themselves are really not making hardly anything at all. And it's just kind of like taking advantage of artists. And that's kind of how I look at some of these low barrier of entry sites where you can just go in. Anyone can go in. It's not vetted or anything like that. You can upload your designs, and you see the designs out there, and some of it's just like, it could be clip art or whatever. And the other thing with sites like these, also like a site like Fiverr, is that a lot of the artwork out there is actually stolen from other artists, and they're getting away with, you know, just, oh, this is my artwork, and then, or this is what I'll do for you, and then they turn around and give somebody else's artwork. It's the same thing with NFTs, where people are using a lot of stuff that they don't actually own, or just taking and cobbling together other pieces, or just outright stealing other people's artwork. Now, the good news is, if there are people putting up artwork, creating NFTs, and they don't own the artwork, they're probably going to get found out pretty quick, because the really cool thing about NFTs is it's all traceable. It's all tied to a blockchain, which is a ledger. Again, other videos will tell you all of this stuff, but it will tell you exactly every single transaction, who created, anytime any activity happens. it's all recorded, so there's really no way to steal an NFT, whereas with an original piece of artwork, if, like I was talking about those Jim Lee original X-Men, if somebody went into whoever had bought that piece of artwork and stole it out of their house, there's really no way to find out exactly who it is unless it turns back on the market, and there's black markets and out there with artwork and everything. With NFTs, that pretty much isn't an issue, because any transaction that digital, if it changes hands to anyone, anything like that, it's all recorded. And there's no real way to fake that because it's tied to this blockchain that's on several different servers. There really isn't any way to forge an NFT. And to me, that's one of the really intriguing aspects of NFTs, is that because of the blockchain, because of this ledger that's out there, not being able to steal it, if you're an artist, chances are maybe, or at least you've known about other artists who have had their work stolen. Maybe it's uploaded to t-shirts, and maybe it's in another country that there's no jurisdiction over. You have no real way to stop that. NFTs, that might create a way to do that. So that is really, really, really cool. Another really exciting aspect about NFTs and why I'm excited about it is what it could mean for digital comic book artists. Because I've talked about this ad nauseum, weighing the difference between digital art versus traditional art, analog art, and it always comes down to this, that there's a lot of pros to doing digital artwork, the expediency, you can undo, you can do all that stuff, and I do both. I do both physical artwork and digital artwork, but there's always that thing where if I do a digital artwork, there's no original. I can't turn around and sell that. But now with NFTs, that creates an avenue for digital artists to make a little extra money, or a lot of extra money actually. I'm setting my sights too small. And this isn't to say that there still isn't value in creating original artwork, because people are always going to want to collect physical artwork, to put it on their wall, to show it off. I don't have a lot of pieces, but I've got a few, and the few that I have, it's just like, to me, it's like, oh man, this is so cool that I can look at this actual piece of artwork by artists that I love and everything, and I can see all the little inconsistencies and where they made mistakes and all that stuff. And to me, that's what's fascinating about it. That's why, as a buyer, I'm not really that interested in NFTs, but like I said, there is a market for that. So you're always gonna have physical art collectors, but now you're going to have collectors of digital artwork. And these usually, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of crossover between them. The people that want original artwork are probably still going to want original artwork and not care at all about NFTs, while there are still going to be other people that are collecting NFTs. So think of the possibilities that this creates for somebody like me who does a little bit of both. So here's a page that I did. So this is original inks over digital artwork. So I created my artwork digitally, I printed it out, and then I inked it and the reason why I did that, because I'm doing a lot of digital inking now too, but I wanted that physical piece. But I thought, if I ever sold this, it's kind of like, well, the artwork is digital, so you're not really getting the real pencils, you're getting the real ink, so you're sort of getting half of it. But think about it this way, I could create this digital artwork, create an NFT, print that out, then ink it traditionally, sell that piece, sell the actual physical piece, or I could even scan the physical inks back in, create another NFT off of that. And so there's just more possibilities, and that's what I want you to open your mind to. Whether you're stuck on, yeah, I only like physical artwork, and I'm right there with you, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a market and people out there clamoring for these NFTs. So, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Why not do both if you can? If you're in the position where people are interested enough in your artwork to want to purchase it, there's no reason why you shouldn't be considering doing NFTs. And this is another really cool thing about NFTs, is that once you sell that, if you sell an original piece, like say I sold this piece, all right? Once I sell it, I've got my money for it. That person, whoever owns that, maybe they go around and sell it to somebody else and then make money and everything after that. With NFTs, anytime that item is resold, there's a setting that you can set it so that anytime your piece is resold, you can make a royalty off of that. And again, it's tied to the blockchain, so there's no way somebody's gonna be able to sneak it through and it's like, okay, we're gonna sell this thing, but we're supposed to give a royalty, but let's just keep this on the down low. There is no down low. You can't get around that. So if I sell this piece, say I'm gonna be, let's say if I sell this piece for $500, all right, and then somebody turns around and sells it for $1,000, I'm gonna make $100 off of that extra sell. So that's that's pretty awesome. And if your work is in high enough demand, and if it's going for, you know, some of these pieces like Adam Kubert, I think he just sold an NFT for like $25,000 for a Spider-Man, which there are some copies of the original Spider-Man that are in less than perfect condition that might only go for that. So that is so crazy that, but you know, but anyway, so it sells for 25, he gets that commission, but then if somebody else wants to buy that off of whoever bought that, then Adam is also gonna get a piece of that. And that is pretty cool because that doesn't happen in the physical art world. So let's talk about who NFTs are really going to work for as comic book artists. Is this gonna, are NFTs, is this something that I'm going to get into? Probably not. I'm an independent artist. I do my own stuff. I do own my own characters and everything, but there isn't a huge demand. I don't, you know, I actually haven't put a lot of my original artwork on the market yet because I just don't think it'll sell it. So I'm kind of holding on to it until hopefully, you know, as I continue to put my work out there and it builds an audience and everything and more people know about it, then there'll be a greater demand for that original artwork. And it's the same with digital artwork. So if people aren't buying our original artworks, chances are they're probably not going to buy the digital NFT version of our artwork either. And it would just be presumptuous of me to think that, oh, I'm going to create an NFT even though I'm not selling a lot of my original artwork and then it's going to sell just because I see a lot of other people out there selling NFTs. Probably not going to work like that. I mean, anything's possible, I guess, but I'm just basing it off of the demand for the work that I have right now. But not everyone's in my position. Some people are selling a lot of original artwork and there is a demand for their work. I would say who NFTs are going to work for best are independent comic book artists who own their own characters and who have a large following. So if you're somebody like, you know, I'm gonna say like Mike Mignola. So he owns Hellboy, he owns all his stuff. He's not tied to a certain publisher or anything. He owns his stuff outright. So if he was gonna create an NFT, he's going to get all that. So he's kind of at the top of the food chain as far as independent artists, as far as success and everything. But you don't have to be that successful. If you're an independent artist, creator, you do a creator-owned book, say publishing on something like Image, where a lot of people, you've got fans of that, you own it, you're not tied to like a Marvel or DC. That's where I think that's where you're gonna benefit the most from creating NFTs, because the Marvel and DC stuff right now is a little up in the air as to what's going to happen there. DC Comics recently put out a statement in regards to NFTs saying to their artists, hold on, you're not allowed to do any NFTs of any of our IP or anything. We're interested in this, but we're trying to figure it out. I mean, they're realizing there is a lot of money to be made. And the thing is, the big two, or the comic industry in general, has an abysmal track record as far as creator rights and just treating creators fairly. So we're gonna have to see how this plays out. Now, that being said, I understand where they're coming from, because these are IP, these are things they own. However they acquired them or whoever created them to begin with, that's a different story. But right now, they own, you know, they own Batman, they own Superman, whatever. So for somebody to just come along and create a Batman, like right now, so that sketch that I'm doing, the Batman Who Laughs drawing, it's a Patreon drawing. Personally, I don't create a lot of fan art, and the fan art that I do create, it's either just for fun or like the Batman Who Laughs that I'm doing, that's a Patreon reward. That's what they requested to do, so that's what I'm doing. And I don't, and this is my own personal thing, I don't go to shows and I don't like comic conventions and I don't sell fan art. I sell my own original stuff. But for me to go and take that Batman Who Laughs, convert it to an NFT, sell that, and make money out of it, it's not my property. I don't own it. Now, it may be a little bit of a different story if you're somebody who works on one of these big two titles and then turns around and does a sketch and sell that. But still, I don't know how authorized that stuff are. In the past, the big two have kind of turned a blind eye to, or maybe it's an understanding that they have where creators who work on, say, like a Wonder Woman can create Wonder Woman sketches and everything and sell them at conventions. They don't really crack down on that. They may now with NFTs if there's a way to like track it, so it's a little different. So we're gonna have to see how this all plays out. If artists who work for Marvel or DC, if they're going to be able to take those IPs, do sketches, turn them into NFTs, I imagine they're gonna work something out together. Now, the thing that I'm a little worried about is the actual, not just the sketches and stuff based on the IP, but the actual pages of artwork. Because right now, as it stands, if you're a comic book artist, if you're creating artwork for the big two, the original pages, those are yours. You get to keep those, you get to sell those. And really, that's where the major money comes from if you're a comic book artist, because comic book page rates are pretty poor, even the big two. I mean, there's some, if you're a super high demand artist, you might get a decent page rate, but even some of the bigger titles, the money you're getting compared to, say, if I was to design a logo, what I could get for a logo, which would take probably a lot less time, is just crazy how little artists are being paid for these page rates. But the good thing is, and it wasn't always this way, there was a lot of fighting legal battles and everything, and people like Neil Adams stepping up to give creators rights so that they could keep their original artwork. And that's where the money comes from. So when you sell that original artwork, the creator gets all of that money. That's theirs. They created it. So that's awesome, and I want that to continue going forward. So whatever happens with the sketches and everything outside of that, I'm not really sure. I'm not really that attached to it, if they can work an agreement with the artist and DC. But what I worry about is that Marvel or DC are going to try to get a cut of these original digital assets, the actual digital pages, because as it stands right now, if you're doing a physical page and you go to sell that at a convention, that's your money. I mean, you may have to split it with a broker. They can probably get you higher demand if you're working with a broker, or whatever the case is. But to my knowledge, Marvel DC doesn't get any of that. That's something that I'm worried that they're going to try to say, oh yeah, you can sell digital artworks of these pages as NFTs, but we need a cut of that. So we'll see where it goes with that. But again, I think this is just a really great opportunity for digital artists, whereas before this was just reserved to physical pieces of artwork. So now it's going to give, and there are so many artists that are working full digital right now, that this is really cool, and this could be a game changer. We're gonna have to see where it goes. The future is not written. We don't know exactly where NFTs are gonna go from here. Right now, they're super hot. They're earning a lot of money for a lot of people. We don't know exactly where that's going to be. Is this a bubble that's going to burst? Is this like the 90s speculator market, that boom where everyone was just buying, where people were buying millions of copies of X-Men and then thinking that they've got something worth something, and then turning around and it's like now, if I try this, I can't get anything for my X-Men #1. There's so many of them out there. So I'm not going to profess to know what the future holds as far as NFTs, but it's something I'm definitely going to keep my eye on. Like I said, I don't think personally I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to sell thousands of dollars in NFTs just based on what my original artwork goes for. But that isn't to say that if NFTs do continue to be a thing, if this isn't a boom, and maybe it is a boom, and maybe whatever, once the dust settles and everything, I have a feeling even if that happens, they'll still be around in some way, shape, or form. They may not be as big as they were, but that technology is there, and for all the reasons I talked about, it's really interesting, the things you can do with it as far as tracking everything, you know, the idea that you can create something, and if somebody, it can't really be stolen, and everything. There's so many pluses to that I think this is, it may shift, it may change, but that technology is there, and it's something that I will be keeping my eye on in the future. Right now, I'm not going to jump into NFTs personally, but like I said, if you are a person that has a high demand for, if you're selling your physical artwork, or even if you're already selling digital artwork, say sometimes people, you know, I know people sell versions of their artwork, like the layered files, the high-res versions. You can sell digital artwork even without that NFT attached to it, but this is just a whole other level that is really gonna, I think, change the game. But again, we're gonna have to wait and see how all this stuff plays out. But I've got my eye on it as a potential, as I myself continue to build my brand, continue to build awareness of my work and a following for my work. And at some point, you may see me selling NFTs. We'll see what happens, because I am always looking for additional income streams, especially for artwork that I created. Right now, one of the things that I'm trying to do is get the most out. If I create one piece of artwork, I'm trying to figure out how can I multiply that? How can I use that in a number of different areas, that one piece of artwork, and continue to make money? So it's like when I create my digital products, it takes me a long time to create them, but I put that out there. Once it's done, it continues to sell, and I gain royalties from that. And also, I can take those assets, those things that are in that that digital piece, I can put them into a physical book like this comic lettering masterclass that I'm working on. I may just strip some of that away and actually make a physical book out of it too. So always be thinking of, if you create an artwork, if you create a physical piece of artwork, once you sell that, it's gone. You don't get any more money out of that. But with NFTs, you're going to continue to get royalties if you set it up that way, where each time that's sold, there's, you know, you're getting a little or a lot of extra money. So that's something you want to think about, and that's why I'm really intrigued by NFTs, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on them. But I want to know what you guys think on the subject of NFTs. Is this something that fascinates you? Do you think that this is ridiculous? Why would anyone want this? And you're totally against them? And there are a lot of other things we haven't even touched on, like the environmental impact NFTs have, the cost of creating NFTs, who's really making the bulk of the money. Like I said, sometimes it's not even the artist. So there's a lot of other things that we can talk about, and we can do that in the comment section. So leave a comment, let me know what you think about this video, let me know what you think about NFTs, and yeah, that's all I have to say about NFTs, at least for now, and I'll see you later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more, and best of all, it's totally free.